Welcome back to Gin and Talk. Today we're starting a series on classic cocktails,
Yay.
classic gin cocktails,
Yes.
of course. And you know we got to start with the king and queen of all classic gin cocktails,
Yes.
which is of course
The Martini.
the Martini. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So the origins of the Martini go back to the mid 1800s
Okay.
with a drink called the Martinez,
Ah.
written down by Professor Jerry Thomas, one of the OG cocktail collectors, if you will, in
Yeah.
history, and bartenders who came to San Francisco, California during the gold rush in the 1850s. And this cocktail was basically the drink that would be the inspiration for both the Martini and the Manhattan.
Okay.
This is a cocktail that has gin as the base. It's stirred, sweet and dry vermouth, maraschino. And then, you know, about 40 years later, we probably gave birth to the actual Martini
Ooh.
in New York, I believe.
In New York, yes. So the legend is, okay, so there's no actual historical facts on where the Martini came from,
Okay.
right? So one legend is that the name Martini, we talk about the name first, came from the brand,
Yes.
the Martini brand,
The,
right?
the brand of dry vermouth,
Dry
right?
vermouth, right? And then the second one is that in the 1900s, 1910, 1920s, there was this bartender from the Knickerbocker Hotel in New York, okay, and he created this drink called the Marguerite.
Marguerite, yes. Correct.
Yes, so in that drink we have orange bitters, some dry vermouth, and gin in it. So that's the recipe for Martini. So I guess that's where the Martini came from.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like Yana said, you know, there's a lot of, this happens with all classic cocktails.
Yeah.
There's always going to be 10 people with their hands up.
Yeah.
No, I created this drink, but it usually comes from a similar area,
Yeah.
a similar time. So we'll say in good faith, we believe it came from New York in the early 1900s.
Yes.
Who exactly, where exactly, a little bit shrouded in history. So one thing I do like to make clear when it comes to the Martini,
Yep.
traditionally, a Martini is a gin cocktail. Similarly
Yes.
to how a margarita would be made with tequila. Now, you could sub another spirit in there.
Yep.
You just wouldn't call it that. That said, of course, that has changed a lot, especially in more recent history, so the last like 30, 40 years. Different ways, classically, you might have a martini.
Yep.
Dry, meaning less vermouth, more spirit forward. Wet, meaning more vermouth, so less spirit forward.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's dirty martinis, and I feel like this is kind of what segued us into the world we're in now, where
Yeah.
there's lychee martinis, espresso martinis, you know,
Yeah,
everything.
everything.
And sometimes, you know, most commonly gin would be subbed with vodka in a classic martini.
Yeah, and also in the 90s, right, the Martini gained a lot of popularity. So anything that was served in a Martini glass,
Yeah.
okay, usually it has a more cone shape.
Yeah,
anything
the
that
little
was,
V.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything that was served in that glass will just automatically be named a Martini.
Yes.
Which is how the lychee Martini came about, espresso Martinis came about. So influential, this drink,
Yes.
Martini. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the martini, partly because of all of these variations on it, like, I mean, you could go on and on, like strawberry, kiwi, like every flavor martini,
Yeah.
you know, like got really big in kind of a dark age of cocktails in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
But you know, you're not wrong, right? Like that's what it is today. But I think it's just important that people know the history of it and like what it's meant to be. But in you know, on the positive side of this,
Yes.
it has helped make the martini the most famous cocktail
It
in the world.
is, yeah. So, Jesse, what is the perfect gin for a martini?
Ooh, a perfect gin for me is more of like a London dry style,
Yep.
more citrus forward, a little bit dry, like the ABV, like 42 to 47%.
Yes.
So 45 is right in the middle.
In
It's
the middle.
perfect. Yeah, but like there's some range.
Yeah, so there you go. That is the origins of the martini.
Yeah.
So we will be talking about other classics in the next few episodes. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe. Sorry.
Subscribe?
Okay, sorry.
Where do you want